cozy front yard oasis, a blooming green space for family relaxation and connection. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this presentation. Today, I invite you to step into a space where architecture meets nature, where style becomes serenity, and where the simple act of designing a front yard transforms not just a house, but an entire way of living. When we talk about a front yard filled with flowers, we are not simply discussing an arrangement of petals, stems, and leaves. We are talking about the very first impression of a home. This is the stage upon which the story of your family begins every day. It is the threshold that welcomes guests, the sanctuary where children laugh, the corner where grandparents rest, and the quiet backdrop for conversations that build connections. In an age dominated by technology, speed, and urban density, our homes often become the only retreat where we can breathe deeply. The front yard, when designed with purpose, becomes more than just landscaping. It is emotional architecture. Flowers soften the structure of modern buildings, making even the boldest facades approachable and inviting. Imagine stepping outside your door every morning, greeted not by concrete alone, but by a symphony of colors: lavender, marigold, roses, hydrangeas, each offering a whisper of calm before the day begins. Research has consistently shown that humans experience reduced stress levels when surrounded by natural beauty. A front yard blooming with flowers is not just decoration, it is therapy. It creates what architects and urban planners call biophilic design, a design principle that recognizes our deep-rooted need to connect with nature. But beyond the personal sense of peace, flower-filled yards also serve as cultural and social symbols. In many traditions, the front yard is the face of hospitality. A well-tended garden signals openness, warmth, and care. Families gather there not just to rest, but to express identity. The choice of plants, the layout of pathways, the placement of benches, all of these are design decisions that reflect who we are and what we value. Consider the global trends. In Japan, the delicate art of gardening turns even the smallest front yard into a spiritual retreat, with blossoms framing pathways like brushstrokes in a painting. In the Mediterranean, vibrant bougainvillea climbing across stucco walls creates a bold, joyful welcome. In North America, cottage-style front yards filled with native perennials symbolize sustainability and environmental responsibility. Each of these examples points to one truth: flowers are more than aesthetics. They are cultural language. The role of the front yard in modern housing design has evolved dramatically over the last few decades. In the mid-20th century, front lawns in suburban America were designed as open green carpets, a display of uniformity and social status. But today, trends are shifting. Lawns are being replaced by functional, sustainable, and expressive gardens. Contemporary front yards emphasize three main ideas: sustainability through the use of native plants that require less water and maintenance; integration, where large glass doors and windows extend indoor living areas into the yard; and human-centered comfort, with shaded seating, natural walkways, and spaces designed for rest and conversation. Architects no longer treat the front yard as a separate entity. Instead, it is an extension of the home itself. Modern houses with minimalist facades often use vibrant floral designs to balance their sleek lines. Meanwhile, rustic and traditional homes find in flowers a natural harmony with their heritage-inspired forms. Flowers in a yard are not just about beauty. They perform functions. They guide the eye along pathways, they frame entrances, and they highlight architectural features. Imagine a narrow pathway leading to the front door, softened by lavender hedges that guide your steps. Picture tall sunflowers flanking a wooden gate, creating a natural archway that says, "Welcome home." Flowers also create privacy without the harshness of concrete walls. A row of hydrangeas can separate a seating area from the street while keeping the space open and breathable. This is where design transforms into strategy. Flowers act as living architecture. Looking ahead, we see an exciting evolution of front yard spaces. Future architectural design will increasingly merge sustainability with technology. Imagine smart irrigation systems powered by sensors that water only when necessary. Picture modular garden beds designed to adapt as families grow and their needs change. Even vertical gardens on fences and walls will become standard in small urban lots, maximizing beauty in limited space. At the same time, there is a growing return to authenticity. Families are embracing gardens that feel personal and imperfect rather than manicured to perfection. A mix of wildflowers, herbs, and flowering shrubs creates a natural tapestry that reflects real life, diverse, vibrant, and evolving. And finally, let us not forget the essence of this topic, the family. A front yard filled with flowers is not just a design statement, it is a lifestyle choice. It encourages families to step outside, to share time together, to connect in an environment that feels nurturing and alive. Children playing among blossoms, parents sipping tea under a vine-covered pergola, grandparents strolling along fragrant pathways. These are the images that define what home truly means. Architecture is not only about walls and roofs, it is about how spaces shape our lives. The front yard, when thoughtfully designed, is where style meets comfort, where trends meet timelessness, and where family meets nature. Designing a front yard filled with flowers is not simply a matter of scattering plants randomly across the soil. It is a deliberate orchestration of space, proportion, and harmony. Just as an architect composes the lines of a building, the gardener or designer composes the layers of color, form, and texture. The front yard becomes a stage, and every flower is a performer playing its role in a carefully written script. The first principle is balance. When approaching a house, the eye is naturally drawn to the entryway. That space must feel grounded and welcoming. Designers often use symmetrical arrangements to emphasize the doorway, 2 pots of seasonal flowers on either side of the entrance, or parallel hedges that guide the visitor forward. In contrast, asymmetry can also be powerful, using clusters of flowering plants to draw attention toward a corner or to soften sharp architectural lines. Balance does not mean perfection. It means a sense of flow where nothing feels out of place. Scale is another essential element. A towering house with a minimalist facade calls for bold floral choices, perhaps tall, ornamental grasses interspersed with sunflowers or hollyhocks to match the height and presence of the architecture. Smaller, cottage-style homes invite softer, low-lying blooms such as daisies, lavender, or pansies, which mirror the cozy charm of the structure. Scale ensures that the garden feels like an extension of the home rather than an afterthought. Color palettes bring emotion into play. Warm tones such as reds, oranges, and yellows evoke energy, vitality, and sociability, making them perfect for spaces where families gather in the evening. Cool tones like blues, purples, and whites suggest calm and serenity, ideal for corners designed for quiet reading or meditation. Some designers choose a monochromatic theme, allowing different textures and heights of flowers to create interest without overwhelming the senses. Others prefer a bold mix, treating the yard as a living canvas of contrasts. The choice of color reflects not only style, but also the personality of the household. Texture adds another dimension. A flower garden that combines feathery ornamental grasses, broad-leafed hostas, and delicate rose petals creates a tactile richness that engages more than just the eyes. When the breeze moves through different textures, the yard comes alive with motion. Pathways lined with flowering ground covers such as creeping thyme not only soften stone edges, but release fragrance with every step, adding the element of scent to the design. The arrangement of flowers also interacts with practical design elements. Pathways, fences, steps, and seating areas all benefit from the careful placement of blooms. A simple wooden bench under a pergola becomes a focal point when framed with climbing roses or wisteria. A stone pathway becomes enchanting when bordered by low-growing blooms that spill gently over the edges. Every flower placement is intentional, working in tandem with built structures to create unity. Different architectural styles call for distinct floral expressions. A modernist home with sharp lines and large windows often pairs best with minimalist landscaping. Rows of white hydrangeas or lavender providing clean, repetitive structure that echoes the home's geometry. Mediterranean villas, on the other hand, thrive when surrounded by bright bougainvillea, geraniums, and citrus blossoms, celebrating bold color and fragrance. A farmhouse design invites wildflowers, sunflowers, and flowering herbs that give the impression of abundance and natural charm. The garden is not separate from the architecture. It is the frame that completes the picture. Cultural influences further enrich these choices. In tropical climates, vibrant hibiscus and orchids create an atmosphere of exotic abundance, while in northern regions, tulips and daffodils mark the joyous return of spring after long winters. The choice of flowers becomes not only aesthetic, but symbolic, tied to the cycles of climate and tradition. A yard in Provence filled with lavender tells a different story than a yard in New England filled with chrysanthemums in autumn. Both are correct, both are beautiful, because they belong to their place. As we look toward the future, sustainability is no longer optional. It is central to design. Families are increasingly embracing native plants that thrive naturally in local conditions, reducing water usage and supporting pollinators. This shift is not only environmentally responsible, but also aesthetically pleasing, as native blooms often create a sense of authenticity that imported ornamentals cannot match. Imagine a front yard where bees dance among flowering milkweed, butterflies rest on echinacea, and hummingbirds dart towards salvias. Such a yard is not just visually stunning, it is alive with ecological purpose. Technology is beginning to reshape this vision as well. Smart irrigation systems connected to weather forecasts prevent waste, ensuring that flowers receive only the water they need. Automated lighting highlights blossoms after sunset, extending the enjoyment of the garden into the night. Even augmented reality tools are allowing homeowners to visualize how a yard will look with certain flower arrangements before planting a single seed. The future of floral design and architecture is interactive, adaptive, and deeply personal. At the same time, a counter-movement is gaining ground, the return to imperfection. Instead of polished, magazine-ready gardens, many families prefer yards that feel natural, spontaneous, and even slightly wild. Meadows filled with diverse blooms are replacing neatly clipped lawns, reflecting a desire for authenticity and a closer bond with nature. This style is not careless. It is curated freedom, where the beauty lies in diversity and surprise. It is a philosophy that says the yard belongs not only to people, but to the birds, bees, and creatures who share the space. The front yard also plays a role in storytelling. Every plant can symbolize something. Roses whisper romance, lavender speaks of calm, sunflowers radiate joy, and evergreens suggest resilience. A designer can craft a narrative through flowers, like creating a yard that feels personal and meaningful. Families often incorporate favorite blooms passed down from previous generations, transforming the yard into a living memory that honors heritage. All of this leads us to the central idea. A front yard filled with flowers is not about following a rigid formula. It is about creating a space that reflects the harmony between people, architecture, and nature. It is about crafting an environment that welcomes, nurtures, and inspires, whether through bold colors or subtle shades, structured rows or wild meadows. The choices we make in design reveal not only our taste, but our vision of home and life. As the conversation around design evolves, we begin to see the front yard not only as a personal retreat, but also as a contribution to the broader community. When neighbors walk down a street lined with flower-filled yards, the collective effect is transformative. A sense of pride and unity grows because beauty in one home spills into the experience of the entire neighborhood. This communal aspect of architecture and landscaping is often overlooked, yet it holds great importance in shaping the atmosphere of where we live. Community-centered design encourages families to think beyond their property line. A flowering tree placed near the edge of a yard shades the sidewalk and provides comfort for passers-by. A border of brightly colored blooms creates joy, not just for the household, but for everyone who walks past. The front yard becomes a gesture of generosity, an invitation for shared delight. In this way, architecture and floral design extend the meaning of home into the public sphere. There is also a psychological benefit in this communal beauty. Studies show that streets lined with greenery and flowers encourage more walking, outdoor activity, and social interaction. People naturally feel safer and more connected in neighborhoods that prioritize aesthetic care. This trend is shaping the way urban planners think about housing developments, emphasizing front yards and community gardens as essential features rather than optional luxuries. The future of residential design will likely see even tighter integration of private and communal green spaces, all contributing to healthier, happier lifestyles. Yet the heart of the front yard remains the family. Beyond its external expression, the yard filled with flowers becomes an internal anchor for connection. Imagine children learning the names of flowers, like planting seeds with their parents and returning day after day to watch life grow. Such activities foster patience, responsibility, and a sense of wonder. For adults, the yard is a space to rest after long hours of work, to sip morning coffee, or to share evening conversations under soft lighting and gentle fragrance. For elders, it is a sanctuary of memory, a place to recall the gardens of their youth while watching new generations play among the blossoms. This intergenerational experience gives the yard a timeless quality. It is not just for today, but for tomorrow. Families pass down traditions through flowers: a grandmother's rosebush transplanted to a new home, a father teaching a child how to prune lavender, a mother guiding her children to gather herbs for tea. These acts transform a simple garden into a legacy. Architecture supports the structure of the house, but flowers support the structure of memory and belonging. Looking ahead, trends suggest that front yards will increasingly merge beauty, sustainability, and functionality. Designers are experimenting with multi-layered ecosystems where flowers are combined with edible plants, medicinal herbs, and pollinator-friendly shrubs. This blending of ornamental and practical species reflects a broader lifestyle shift. Beauty should be useful, and usefulness should be beautiful. A yard of flowers may also yield fresh herbs for cooking, teas for relaxation, or blossoms for natural remedies. The line between garden and daily living blurs, enriching the home experience. The integration of outdoor and indoor living will also deepen. Large sliding doors, glass walls, and open-air porches already blur the boundary, but the presence of flowers intensifies the connection. A view of blossoms from the kitchen window makes even routine chores more pleasant. The scent of jasmine drifting through an open doorway makes the interior feel alive. Homes of the future will be designed not as boxes sealed from nature, but as breathable, dynamic spaces that change with the seasons, where the front yard becomes an extension of the living room. Technology will enhance this seamless living. Imagine solar-powered lighting hidden among flower beds, creating a soft glow that illuminates pathways at night. Picture soundscapes integrated into the yard, where hidden speakers play gentle ambient tones that harmonize with the rustling of leaves and buzzing of bees. Even the possibility of robotic gardeners, machines designed to prune, water, and monitor plant health, could allow families to enjoy lush gardens without the burden of constant maintenance. Yet even with these innovations, the human element will remain central. A garden is at its best when touched by human hands, when the act of caring for flowers becomes a ritual of love. The future also carries a symbolic shift. As global awareness of climate change and sustainability grows, the flower-filled yard becomes more than personal pleasure. It becomes an ethical statement. Choosing drought-resistant species, creating habitats for pollinators, and using organic gardening methods signal a commitment to the planet. Families are beginning to see their gardens not as isolated projects, but as part of a larger ecological network. Every flower planted contributes to biodiversity. Every yard that flourishes contributes to resilience. Ultimately, the message is clear. A front yard filled with flowers is more than a design trend. It is a reflection of how we want to live. It embodies a desire for beauty, for connection, for sustainability, and for meaning. It bridges the private world of family with the public world of community. It balances tradition with innovation, function with emotion. It is both ancient and futuristic, humble and ambitious. So imagine walking up to such a home. The path is shaded by blossoms swaying gently in the breeze. The air carries a hint of fragrance, a blend of jasmine, lavender, and roses. A family sits together, their laughter mingling with birdsong. Neighbors smile as they pass, sharing in the beauty. The architecture behind it all feels alive, framed and softened by nature's artistry. This is not just a yard, it is a living expression of what home can be. The vision of a front yard filled with flowers is therefore not about gardens alone. It is about architecture that breathes, families that connect, and futures that flourish. It is about transforming space into story, structure into sanctuary, and houses into homes that welcome both loved ones and strangers alike. It is a promise to ourselves and to generations to come that beauty, nature, and connection will always remain at the heart of where we live.